What's up, everybody? I'm so excited to talk about today's subject. I mean, we get asked a lot of questions, but this has to be up there in the top 5 easily. And it's an important question, so I get it why you ask. Real estate and investing takes a lot of money. So how do you get investors in on your investments that you're doing? How do you get people to buy in on your vision? Now, this is really important and it carries a lot of weight, and one that I take very seriously. Our investors that invest with us, they put trust in with us, and they're putting their money with us because they believe that we are going to manage that money in the highest of integrity, and we are watching out for them. So how do you, maybe you don't have any experience at all, or maybe you've dibble-dabbled, how do you get investors? Now, there's a few points that I'm gonna make, and the last one is super important, but we need to lay a foundation before we get there. So let's start out with the first one. The first one is be authentic. Now, I understand I am not the person for everyone, and that's okay. I don't want to be, right? That is not my goal. I do not want to be the person that everybody wants to invest with, but I do want to be the person that is right for the type of investment, how I approach it, for those investors to find me, right? That's really important to me. It's one of the reasons I'm making YouTube videos, because I want them to understand better our philosophies, our investment styles, who we are, why we believe what we believe. We're big on transparency, and you should be too. You need to be authentic of who you are, right? We're going through life and we see things differently. We are all looking through our own lens, and these lenses are made up of what we've experienced, our beliefs that we have. And if you get investors that don't fully understand the way you look at the world and aren't on board with how things are gonna be done, you're gonna butt heads. And that's what you want to avoid. So being authentic is really important. Don't try to be someone that you're not, because investors get that. They see it, and that is not a good quality, because now there's this level of distrust. You're trying to be something you're not, and people don't like that. It's this thing that's behind you, that you're putting up a front, that you're trying to act like somebody you're not, and it makes them feel uneasy, and that's the worst thing ever. If you don't know something, just don't pretend that you do. Just say, I don't know. I'll find an answer to that. I'll figure that out. Or I know somebody that has the answer. Don't try to be someone you're not, and don't make up anything. Now, the second part of the same point of being authentic is also separating yourself from the herd. This is a hard thing to do because we're looking for winning strategies, and separating yourself from the herd or the noise in your own investing strategy, right? That may not mean your investing strategy is different. And I'm not saying do something crazy. I'm not saying have an investment strategy that is out of this world that no one's ever heard of. In fact, that's the opposite of what you want to do. My investing strategy is simple, right? I invest in real estate and I have a value add strategy, and I show them how we do it and the resources and tools that we have that are going to accomplish that. Now, when you're working with an investor, you need to show them their strategy, even if it's a tried true one. But what you need to do is be very individualistic in how you're going to accomplish it, the resources you have at your hand. Now, if you're saying, I don't have any resources, right? You do. You just haven't gone out and gotten them, because we all do. And start small. But that's on for the next point. So point number 2 is almost equally as important as point number 1. Now, point number 2 is knowledge. But I don't want you to think that you have to know everything, because that's definitely not how it works. You can either know how to do it, or you can know someone that does. Either way, it's knowledge. There's lots of things that I don't know how to do. And my investors know that I don't know how to do everything, but they know that I've teamed up, or I know the people that know how and can execute on that. I don't try to pretend that I'm great in, computer software or anything else like that, but I'm backed by teams that allow me to execute on our strategy. But I know the big picture. And that is really important. When you're trying to attract investors, you need to know what the big picture is. You need to be able to explain to them why your philosophical approach to that investment is going to work. People need to be bought into your vision and understand why this will happen. Perfect example of this. You're buying a duplex, right? You're buying a duplex in a city, and you want to do a value add. You want to fix it up and rent it out. and you need investors to help you. And they say, well, why should we do this? Why is this going to be a winning investment? And that's when you come out and say, did you know that this city is not only growing at a 2% rate, but they also have 3 new businesses coming in, and the government has put new improvements for a landing strip and an airport. And we can already see that this house is below market rent, and by updating it, we can achieve a higher rental rate. And they say, great. I love it. I'm on board. And then they say, well, how are you going to remodel it? Oh, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to do that. First of all, that's fine. I don't know how to swing a hammer. It's really lame. And I feel like I got to give up my man card for it. But I'm just like the worst person when dealing with building of any kind. I mean, any kind. You know, my wife has to handle that stuff for me. I know. It's totally embarrassing. Got to give up my man card for it. But because I know that, I make sure that I hire people that are incredible at building, remodel, doing the value add strategy. Because I don't know. And I don't know what to do. So then I come to the investors and I say, listen, here's our team. Here's our team that's going to execute on that remodel, and here are their projections. In fact, why don't you listen to them or see what they wrote up? Once again, knowledge. I have the knowledge of the big picture. I have the knowledge of what I'm trying to execute. I'm bringing them in on the vision. The executing part, I may not know, so I have to bring others in and around me. Knowledge is 2 sets. Knowledge, understanding the big picture, why you're doing what you're doing, and how you're going to accomplish it. But individual execution knowledge, you may not know everything, right? Now, managing, I know how to manage self-storage. I understand rate increases. I understand supply and demand. Now, executing on those things, I can do. And we can do very well with my team, and I understand what we're trying to achieve. Now, I also do building. I do converting, right? Those things, as far as the building and conversion side, I need to team up with great builders. That's okay. That doesn't bother me at all. So, knowledge. Understand what you're trying to do, how you're going to get there, and understand what you don't know, and get somebody in place to cover it. The investors don't care that you don't know, but they do care if you don't execute or you don't have somebody that can. That's going to be a big problem. And number 3. Number 3 is probably the most important part of this whole thing. Number 3 takes care of a lot of problems. Investors need something. They need something they don't have, and that's a deal. They don't have those things. They don't have the opportunity. Maybe they don't real estate invest. Maybe self-storage isn't their thing. Maybe multifamily isn't their thing, and you're trying to deliver a product and get investors on board. It's so much easier to do that if you already have a deal. If you don't have a deal, well, then what are you showing investors? How are you communicating with them? If you go out to a real estate meetup and there's people that are looking to invest in this real estate asset class like self-storage, and you say, I have this property, it's locked up, I have it under contract, and here's how I underwrote it, and here's the team that is going to execute on it. Now they see it. It's real. Now you've shown them that you're doing the work. Like I tell everybody, don't worry about the money. Worry about the deal. The money will come. You know, we just recently bought an office building. It's going to be a huge project, $9 to $10 million. We're putting our own money into it, but we've also got a lot of other projects going. So we brought investors in. I didn't worry about the investors until the very last moment in the deal, because I knew that if the deal made sense and if we could show how we were going to execute, the investors would come. Although this is an important part, and although you have to get the deal, you need to make sure that you're prepared when you present it. You need to make sure the seller understands, and you have to build in time for it. You can't go tell a seller, yeah, I'll close in 30 days, and you don't have anything ready, because you're going to burn the seller, you're going to get a bad name. Investors want to make sure you can execute. They want to make sure you can pull the trigger. Showing them how you can do that and making sure that you have the time frame to do it. So getting a 120-day close, which lots of people are like, oh, sellers won't do that. Well, we've done it multiple times this year, even though there's tons of capital out there. Sellers also understand lots of times what it's going to take. Now, mom and pops, value add strategies, that takes time. I need contractors. I need to work with the city. You need to build in the time for execution. Banks don't care what your contract is. They've got to go through their own underwriting. They've got to go through their own approval process. And that also will involve your investors. Get a deal, but give yourself time to get the deal done. So first, find the deal. That will take care of almost all other problems. Now, although that's the most important thing, it's not the last thing. The last thing comes after the deal, maybe before the deal. Actually, it comes far before the deal. But it's really why investors will come to you. You're trying to get investors. We've talked about the things that you need, right? You need to be individualistic. You need to have knowledge, both big picture and application knowledge, even if that is who, not you. That's fine, right? And third, the granddaddy of all, the deal that takes care of most problems in the world, but done appropriately with enough time. But before any of this starts, you need to be networking. You can't have knowledge, and if nobody knows about it, then why does it matter? It's interesting how many people that I get message us say, how do I find investors? I'm like, well, what are you doing? And most of them don't have anything that they're doing yet. That doesn't matter then. You need to be out networking. You need to have people understand what your vision is. You need to have people understand what your strategy is and what you're trying to accomplish. It's like priming the pump. And communication and networking is the prime. If you don't prime the pump, then when it actually comes time to get water out, nothing's gonna come out. I can't stress this enough. You need to be networking. You need to be networking with people that can, once again, execute in areas that you can, and you need to be networking with people within the industry and within the asset class you're looking for. Self-storage is no different. People need to understand who you are, what you stand for, what you're trying to achieve. It's through that process that the right people for you will come. So, it's not just enough to know what you want, have a deal. It's not enough to have everything set up. You need to prime the pump. People need to know who you are and what you're trying to do. So when you come to them with a deal, they're ready. Networking is a fundamental portion of investors, and communication is extraordinarily important. You need to develop good communication skills. People need to trust you, and you need to be transparent in the process. Don't worry about the negatives or the downsides. Be open and honest with them about it and how you're going to accomplish it. That makes all investors comfortable. And this is a process, not an event. It's another thing people want. I got a deal. Where's my investors? You need to develop this as a process. You need to be looking for deals, networking, communicating, all at the same time. So it needs to all come together. There's no reason to have investors if you don't have a deal, and there's no reason to have a deal if you don't have investors. It's the pinnacle of all these things at once, and that builds you a resume. Once you accomplish a deal, make people money, and get the deal done, then you have happy investors. Now more people will want to know, and more people want to put money with you. Once again, it's not an event, it's a process, so treat it like one. So point number 2, knowledge. And knowledge doesn't mean you have to know everything, because you can know 2 things. You can even know either. Point number 2. This is, holy crap, what is going on here? I get to point number 2, and it's like,